And in this research, basically what we are doing is laying the groundwork for natural language processing in the Ngiemboon language. And from this perspective, we are reviewing a study of its part of speech system. um, so in this presentation, I want to kind of look at the introduction and kind of review the large language models, other deep learning algorithms, and obviously their place within under-resourced languages. We also want to discuss the choice of the language, and then we'll be doing a rapid survey of the language, and then we'll review the language, the part of speech of the Ngiemboon language. So we actually, the goal was, the initial goal of this research was not a descriptive study of the part of speech system of the Ngiemboon language. We wanted to develop other systems, natural language processing systems, such as part of speech tagging system, automated machine translation system, just to find out that because this is an under-resourced languages, there is a lot of prerequisites work that needs to be done. And as you know, natural language processing aims to automate the processes that enables machines to read, decipher, or understand, or make sense of natural language processing. And obviously, some of its major applications include machine translation, information retrieval, augmented generation, automatic speech recognition, and many others. So at the underlying level of all of these applications, there are actually language models that are grouped based on specific algorithms, whether it's word segmentation, morphological segmentation, word sense disambiguation, and to some extent part of speech tagging. Now, obviously, there are lots of challenges in natural language understanding, and some of those challenges are resolved by part of speech tagging. And the applications of part of speech tagging are very useful for other downstream tasks such as automated speech recognition, syntactic parsing, machine translation, and various other natural language processing tasks. So what we wanted to do in this is, with the influx of research or the advancements of research and constant influx of new deep learning algorithms, there's a lot that is being done in the development of part of speech tagging in various languages, including under-resourced languages. And the major issue and the absolute prerequisites for the implementation of any of these deep learning algorithm is a detailed linguistic study and analysis of the target language. And so in this paper, we propose a detailed study and description of the Ngiemboon part of speech system and its critical importance to the development of state-of-the-art part of speech tagging system for this language. And the significance of part of speech for natural language processing is the large amount of information they give about a word and its neighbors. So knowing a part of speech of a word can also aid in its accurate pronunciation when developing a speech synthesis system or an automatic speech recognition. Knowing a part of speech of a word will be very significant when developing a machine automated translation system. So knowing the part of speech of a word is going to help a lot in developing various NLP algorithms in a given language. And so knowing a part of speech will give a hint about the morphological affixes that it can take. And so natural language processing algorithms such as word parsing, word sense disambiguation, shallow information extraction will produce better results when a word part of speech is none. And so these are the reasons why we thought that the first step in developing NLP systems in this language is to describe in detail its part of speech system. Now, why did we choose the Ngiemboon language? The Ngiemboon language is a language spoken in the nation of Cameroon. As you see, nowadays, large corporations such as Microsoft, IBM, Google, and the like are investing massively on languages with significant marketing and commercial potential, such as English, French, German, and so on. Minority languages, especially those spoken in sub-Saharan Africa, have very little attraction for these companies. And the reason is obvious. These languages are not marketable, at least not at this moment. Yet, these languages are the vectors of communication and development of communities where they are spoken. In other words, people that use this language, it is their primary language, and that's what they use to connect to the imperative and joy of the information that they need to better themselves or to better develop their community. And so investing in language development, as well as the development of human language technologies in these languages, will add a significant contribution to their sustainable development. I'm a native speaker of the Ngiemboon language, and with linguistic and engineering expertise, I want to contribute to the effort of bringing the gap between high resource languages and under-resourced languages by contributing to the democratization process of the development of artificial intelligence, meaning making sure that there's no language left behind. Now, with the research like this one, someone may wonder, can we not just, take advantage of large language models, fine-tune them, to see if we can get the result that we want? The truth is that nowadays, large language models have become a reference topic of discussion, obviously, when people talk about artificial intelligence. And they do represent cutting-edge advanced research in natural language processing. A natural language have at the core of their foundation generative pre-trained transformers and require massive language corpora for efficient results. It's so that the existing pre-trained language models can be fine-tuned on lesser data sets peculiar to a specific subject, field of study, or industry. With their popularity, accuracy, and effectiveness, would it be legitimate? It's legitimate to ask, should we not all turn to large language models for answers to research questions in natural language processing? Well, despite the significant amount of research, let me answer the other question first. We don't have all the details to suggest a direction in one way or the other, whether we should all turn to LLMs to answer questions in NLPs. We don't have all the details to suggest a direction in one way or the other, especially when it comes to high resource languages such as English and others. However, it's important to note that large language models are challenged by hallucination, reliability, huge computational complexity, and lack of incremental learning capabilities. And to tackle these efficiencies, an alternative approach could be the decomposition of a generic large language model to several domain-specific mid-sized language models that have a multimodal interface to handle textual or visual input and a knowledge core implemented by knowledge graphs for knowledge representation, data mining, and incremental learning. Such a model design could improve the interpretability, reliability, computational complexity, and incremental capability of next generation language models with obviously justifiable and logical reasoning. And from that perspective, part of speech tagging is still a valuable step in building interpretable natural language models. Now, this apprehension is not only applicable to resource languages, but it is critically extendable to under-resourced languages where there are almost no existing large corpora. Therefore, we understand the need or to extend the excitement of the development of part of speech taggers to under-resourced languages. And obviously, the Ngiemboon language is an under-resourced language. Why? Despite the significant amount of research carried out, and this will explain why, one of the reasons why we must start with the part of speech, descriptive study of the part of speech system of the language. Despite the significant amount of research carried out on this language and the enthusiasm observed by its linguistic community to promote it in a written form, it remains an under-resourced language. An under-resourced language is a language, per the definition by Berman, it's a language with some, if not all of the following aspects: lack of a unique writing system. This is true for the language, for the Ngiemboon language. Lack of a stable orthography. This is true for the Ngiemboon language. Limited presence on the web. This is true for the Ngiemboon language. Lack of linguistic expertise. There is linguistic expertise, but not as extended as it is in other languages. Lack of electronic resources for speech and language processing, such as monolingual corpora, bilingual electronic dictionaries, transcribed speech data, pronunciation dictionaries, and the list goes on. All of these things are still missing in this language. These are some of the things that we hope to develop in the future. And that is why we are starting with a foundation, which is the descriptive study of its part of speech. So the Ngiemboon language is a language, is an Eastern Grassfield Bantu language spoken in two divisions, Bambutos and Menua, of the west region of Cameroon in Africa. And the initial scientific or linguistic research work on this language dates back to the early 70s when Stephen Anderson, at the time a Summer Institute of Linguistic researcher, and PhD students in the linguistics department of the University of Southern California in Los Angeles settled in Cameroon to decipher the stories that this language had to tell. And over the years, he had remained the prolific researcher of this language up till date, carrying out scientific development of the language, leading to the basic standardization of the language. When I say the basic standardization of the language, I mean he proposed an orthography, he proposed a writing system, he proposed the first draft or prototype of the dictionary for the language, and many other resources. So I wanted to highlight here, as I am laying the groundwork for this NLP research in the Ngiemboon language, some of its features, linguistic features that potentially may have NLP, natural language processing implications. I'm showing here the consonants of the language. But before we talk about the consonants, it's good to talk about the syllabic structure of the language, because this is going to have potential NLP implications. The language consists of consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, root. So words generally have consonant, vowel, and consonant roots. And they also have what they call an obligatory root initial consonant, an optional semi-vowel, an obligatory vowel, and optional final consonants and vowel. And so the Ngiemboon prefixes on nouns and verbs and some pronouns, in addition to the simple consonant, vowel, consonant, syllable structures, have just a syllable nucleus consisting of either a vowel or a homogenic nasal consonant. And with all of that studies, Steve Anderson came up with these underlying consonants. We say underlying consonants because at the surface level, I wanted to say the phonetic realization of many of these consonants varies depending on whether they appear before or after the word root. And the realization of some of the consonants may also depend on the vowel that follows, as well as unpredictable tonal variation. All of these are some of the things that are going to have a significant NLP implications, because especially when developing a speech recognition system, because what can be written can be pronounced in a very different way. And that's why we are highlighting this. We also want to highlight that it has 7 vowels, and these vowels are actually underlying vowels, and some of them can take a long form, while others can take a nasal form. And vowel variations may take place depending on morphophonological rules. And these morphophonological rules are some of the things that have a significant impact on the part of speech system of the language, and they would have significant implications when developing NLP solutions, such as automated machine translation systems, such as part of speech tagging, such as automatic speech recognition systems. Now, the other thing to note is that the language is tonal, and one of the things about this language is that it has one of the most complex underlying tonal systems. And from that perspective, why do we say that it's complex? Because there's what we call tone perturbations, and tones can affect individual words changes when they are put into a sentence. That is, a word in a sentence can have variations in their tones. And this is extremely significant. I don't think there's a significant amount of NLP work that has been done on tonal languages. And this is one of those aspects of the language that is going to be telling lots of stories or sharing new experiences when it comes to natural language processing. A tonal language is a language that has morphemes whose surface pitch, obviously acoustically understood as the fundamental frequency with which corresponds the articulatory rate at which the vocal cords vibrate at any point in time. So I was saying that the morphemes whose surface pitch patterns contrast with each other in one or more comparable environment. And so the Ngiemboon language has 4 main tone melodies on noun and verbs, the rising tones, the downstep high tones, the low tone, and the low falling tones. Some of these linguistic realizations are actually prerequisites for a clear determination of the Ngiemboon grammatical categories. And so for the part of speech, we have the nominal. This is to say noun. And in this language, it's a bit complex compared to Indo-European languages, for example, because in the Ngiemboon language, the nouns are not classified by masculine or feminine or plural or singular. On the contrary, they are classified by noun classes. And each noun class is defined based on a specific prefix that that noun will take given its appearance in a sentence with other words. So generally, if you have a noun and then an adjective, the prefix that appears before the noun is generally going to be the same. The noun root is the same that will appear before the adjective root. And if the name changes, depending on its class, if we have a different name that belongs to a different noun class, then we'll have a different prefix, and it's the same prefix that will appear on the prefix of the adjective that comes before it. And sometimes the distinction between the noun and the verb in this language is not apparent, and generally, or in some cases, it could be just the tone that makes the difference. And obviously, the language also has, it's part of speech, you know, the adjective, it has the qualifiers, it has the possessive, the demonstrative, interrogative, cardinal numbers, and then the participle ends. It has pronouns, personal pronouns, general subject pronoun, possessive pronouns, demonstrative, relatives, and interrogatives. It also has indefinite pronouns. Obviously, the language also has part of speech, prepositions as well as adverbs. All of these are much more detailed in the article. And it was actually necessary for us to begin by describing the part of speech system of this language, as we believe it lays the groundwork for further natural language processing research in the Ngiemboon language. One of the next tasks that we will accomplish after this initial research is the development of the part of speech tagging system for this language. Now we have the resources that we need at least to begin that work. And from there, other systems such as an automated translation system or an automatic speech recognition system, and so on and so forth could be better developed. And so there is still, this is only the groundwork that is being laid, and we really look forward to more in-depth natural language processing research and development that will be taking place on this language. Thank you very much for your attention.